Welcome to Uma School. Today we're going to be learning about the Libra Cup.
Wow!
The most important thing to look at first is this little bit in the bottom left-hand corner. You want to take note of the length of the race,
Boxing,
the direction,
boxing,
the season,
boxing!
the sun, and the track conditions. These are all important.
Yay!
All of this information is relevant. Why is the teacher wearing casual clothes? Teacher clothes. There we go.
Yippee!
So when you're taking note of these things, they are for your green skills that you will buy if you get them. The most important ones are the season and the direction, because these green skills will give you a speed bonus. So let's take a look.
お祭りマンボウダブダブゆらゆらお祭りマンボウ
So all of your speed skills, all your green skills that give you speed have this little boot with the foot. And we're looking for fall runner and right-handed because this track is in fall and it's right-handed, right? Makes sense. Firm and sunny conditions are in here as well. Firm is going to be under your little muscle arm, and sunny is a guts buff, so it's going to be under this fire symbol. These will give you buffs to your power and your guts respectively. Do you need them all the time? No, especially the guts buff. But they are all very good for proccing groundwork if you are building front runners. Next, we look at Kyoto and Turf. So Kyoto, you can get the green stamina skill. Kyoto Racecourse is another green skill that you can pick up to help you proc groundwork, and this one is going to be more relevant than your stamina skills usually are because this track is 3,000 meters long.
Oh my God!
This makes it relatively simple for raising Umas because you are not super worried about, a bunch of different stats. Every Uma needs max stamina and max speed.
Boxing,
So those are your goals. And whatever else you get, just be happy with it. Obviously, front runners are looking for more wit, and everyone else is looking for more power. And then the same minimum stat for wit we've always had applies for everyone else. You want 400, yeah? Because that gives you about 80% chance to proc your skills. So the way that this track runs, we've got the top-down view here, right? This is our top down. And then this is our side view. So in the side view, you want to imagine that they've taken the start and the end of the race like a noodle of spaghetti.
Wait, what?
And they've stretched it out lengthwise. And you're looking at the start here and the end here. And on this picture, it's a very difficult picture to understand because it does multiple laps. This is the finish. This is the end marked by this flag here. And then the start of the race is here. Because the race is so long, they do multiple laps. As you can see, this is just an image, so I can't click these, but there's lap 1 and lap 2. So I'm going to explain to you how that works. And I'm just going to draw on the race course. So your Uma starts here. Hello, I'm Agnes Digital. There's your Uma. She's going to start here. She's going to run like this. But she's not going to stop here. This is not the end. This race is very long. She's going to continue running around the track. And then she's going to hit the start of the late race right where she began. Right about here. This is sort of the start of the late race in here. Then she's going to keep running. And this is the end.
finish!
So you want to be thinking about how this looks from this picture over here, because it's going to help you understand what skills are relevant. So this horizontal sort of side cut of the track is really helpful. What we can see is that the early race starts on a straight with an uphill at the very beginning, followed immediately by a downhill. This is going to repeat again at the very start of the late race. As you can see, this here is the start of the late race, right here. And the late race begins on a straight because we're right back here where we began. So you want to be thinking about skills like straightaway spurt. Also, side note, from Uma School, I want to be explaining to you how these races work, but I also want to give you the tools to be able to read these images yourselves. Obviously, I want you to come to Uma School and watch the videos and learn from me. But at the same time, I want to enable you to be able to understand these pictures and these explanations so that you can make informed decisions yourself. I see a lot of people really struggling when like people are telling them what to do and they're like, I don't really understand why. Like, why is no stopping me not good on this race? Or why is straightaway spurt good on this race? These kind of skills in reading these maps and this information is where people are basing those opinions off of. So if you can learn to read these, you can make choices for your own Umas that will allow you to be better informed on what skills are good, what Umas are good yourself. And then that way you're not, just regurgitating what other people are doing. And then when it doesn't work, you don't know why it didn't work. I want you to really understand it as well. Straightaway spurt is going to be incredibly strong here because the late race begins on a straight. So straightaway spurt's going to activate here and carry through. Skills that activate at the start of the late race are important because that's when your Umas start increasing to their maximum speed. So your Uma doesn't run at max speed for the entire race. They run at sort of a set speed relevant to their position. Late, pace, end closer, even the front runners are not always reaching their max speed until the late race. Front runners are the ones who are getting closest to their max speed. So that's why you want acceleration skills like groundwork for front runners, because the strategy of a front runner is to accelerate to their top speed as quickly as they can and then maintain the gap that they've created with that acceleration until the very end. All the other positions start accelerating at the start of the late race. So any skill that says increases acceleration at the start of the late race, increases acceleration on a straight, is going to be good here. Any skill that says it does it on a corner isn't going to be too bad. Because if I move some of my doodles off here, you can see that this corner isn't too far into the late race, but it is a bit in. So everybody who starts on the straight, who starts accelerating on the straight, is going to have a few seconds of acceleration that you don't have if you're waiting until this corner to start accelerating. It also starts on an uphill and then immediately goes into a downhill. So all of your uphill downhill skills are going to be relevant here. Your Highlander is going to be relevant. Your straight descent is going to be relevant. Another skill procced by a downhill that's going to be huge on this one is Go Home Specialist. And we're going to be seeing a lot of gold ships. Go Home Specialist is going to be very strong because it reduces fatigue on a downhill. Why is that so good? Because bang, it happens over here. Now, this you have to be aware of because you could pop Go Home Specialist over here. That being said, you are 330 meters into the race at that point. You are still getting value out of Go Home Specialist if it procs here. It starts on an uphill. So if it was recovery on an uphill, that would not be good. Because you would come out of the gate and bang, hit your recovery skill. Like you would have the possibility to do that. And you don't want to do that. You don't want to recover right out of the gate because you have nothing to recover. You haven't run yet. But here, you've at least run 330 meters. So you've got some to recover. But what you're looking for is this downhill. That's where you really want your Go Home to proc. Go Home Specialist doesn't have a cooldown. So as I understand it, that means it cannot proc twice. So if you get it here, you're not going to get it here again at the end. That being said, it's still a great skill that comes inherently on Gold Ship. Other skills have cooldowns, like Professor of Curvature. This makes them particularly strong on these long tracks. So you can see here, Professor of Curvature has a base cooldown of 30 seconds. If you proc Professor of Curvature on the first corner, you have a chance to then proc it again on the final corner, because 30 seconds will pass, the cooldown will expire, and you can pop it again. How do you know if a skill can be popped multiple times? You have to check on Game Tora. You have to come here, you have to find the skill or the card that gives the skill, scroll down and look for base cooldown. If you can see a base cooldown, then the skill can be procced multiple times. Umamasume is by far an information game. The more you can accumulate the information from these websites like Game Tora, the more you can apply it, but you do have to understand how to interpret it, which is what we're going to try and do today. Now, let's take a look at what skills are going to be good here. Luckily, this wonderful website has shown us here why some of these skills are good and some are bad. The final corner is deep in the late race. Right here. We can see that. The final corner is halfway through the late race. You should have reached your max speed by now, or very close to, by the time you hit the final corner of the late race. This makes Redshift and Shooting for Victory unusable for all styles, since they will be at max speed at this point. Angling and Scheming and Let's Pump Some Iron are still usable, since they check for any late race corner, but they're not as powerful compared to other tracks. So, what does that mean? Angling and Scheming and Let's Pump Some Iron are still usable, since they check for any late race corner. What that means is Angling and Scheming and Let's Pump Some Iron can proc on this corner here. So they can proc earlier. All they're checking for in their conditions to activate are that you are in the late race and on a corner. Redshift and Shooting for Victory specifically proc on the final corner. And that's why they're bad. Because you're going to be accelerating at the tail end of the longest race you have done in forever, right? You're going to run around the whole track and you're going to end up all the way over here and hit this final corner and try to activate your accels, and you're never going to make it because everybody else will have already done so. So you're looking primarily for skills that will accelerate you on the straight or any corner in the late race. Let's talk about the recovery alts. Let's say that you don't have really good stamina support cards. You're borrowing Super Creek MLB and you just are like, I don't know what I got to do. Or you have to borrow Ketis on MLB still, and you are using SR stamina cards trying to reach this max stamina that you need to have for this race. The Umas that are going to be good to you are the ones that have recovery alts. So Super Creek has Clear Heart or Pure Heart, depending on what star level you've got her at. This is just an improved version of Clear Heart. Let's take a look at Pure Heart. She is going to greatly recover endurance when well-positioned mid-race. So, what does that mean? This phase random 1, the skill condition viewer tells us phase random 1 means a random spot in the mid-race. Where is that here? This huge chunk here. So anywhere in here, she's going to greatly recover her endurance. It is always good to have recovery in the mid-race. Always. It's literally ideal because you will have run some and you will still have some to run. So this is where you want to be recovering. What's the next piece? And order 2. So you have to be in second or below and in the second half of the pack. She's in second, third, or fourth. Thank you, Churong. Which is where she's going to be. She's a pace chaser, right? That's where she be. You run her as a pace chaser, she pops her ult. And that's how to understand that. Another Uma with a really strong ultimate is going to be Agnes Tachyon. Where'd she go? Agnes, my girl. Okay. Agnes's ult got a buff. Huge. Not only does she recover stamina, but she also increases her target speed. If you're near the front during a corner in the second half of the race, your speed will increase and your stamina will recover. A corner in the second half of the race. The reason this is not ideal is you can pop here. It's not ideal to start accelerating here because you will not quite get what you're looking for. Now, if you got it here, that would be really nice. This is still good. She's going to increase her speed here. You have to be mindful with Agnes Tachyon that you are going to need mid-race straight skills. Why? Because you need to capitalize on this speed increase and push through into the late race. She needs to be able to keep going to take advantage of this new acceleration or speed increase she has received. It's not acceleration, it's a speed increase. You need to take advantage of this. She's not increasing her acceleration. She's increasing her speed. You really want some of these skills on your Agnes because you need them to help you get a going after you ult. The problem is on a long race, these puppies can proc pretty much anywhere. This is all you get. These are your options. So you're really looking at ults like Hishiaki Bonos that give you that acceleration. It's going to be tricky though. I will say. That being said, the biggest aspect I believe about accelerating on this course is going to be who can do it without running out of stamina. And a side note with Agnes, it's really nice to run a front runner with her because Agnes loses if there's no front runners. If there's no front runners and Agnes gets the lucky pace chaser and she ends up in first place, she can't proc her ult. Okay, now I want to just make a couple of notes about stats and this race course. So while you're looking to get as much stamina as possible, ideally you would hit max speed and max stamina. You could also hit 1050 stamina and 2 gold recovery skills. We're going to talk about recovery skills in a second, but let's also talk about power and wit and guts. So on this race course, we have 2 uphills, and these are relevant because power determines your ability to navigate these uphills. Logically, it just makes sense. The more power you have, the easier it is for you to climb the hill. You are going to want to get as much power, if not max power, on your late surgers and end closers and even your pace chasers if you can. That's where this 1050 stamina plus 2 gold recoveries comes in. There is a world in which you run the Rice Shower Power card with Swinging Maestro, Kishi Amazon for the stamina gains, and you just go for max power, max speed, 1050 stamina, and pray. This is going to be very valuable. The more power you have on these uphills, the more effectively those positions will navigate them. The front runners are determined more by wit. Now, everyone benefits from wit on the downhills. The more wit you have on a downhill, the more stamina you can serve. So while wit is important, it is simply not possible at this point in the game to get a lot of wit if you are trying to get max speed, max power, 1050 stamina. It's not going to be within your realm. Don't worry if you can't do it. Nobody else can either. Not even the whales, I promise. Front runners want more wit than power because they need wit to position keep, to fight for their front runner position. It will help them conserve their stamina on the downhills when they already have a hard time getting stamina and gold recovery skills. There's not very many viable front runner gold recoveries. They also need some guts. There is a new mechanic called spot struggle. And when those front runners spot struggle, they use more stamina. Guts as a stat overall affects your stamina usage. So the more guts you have, the less trouble you'll have spot struggling. Now, as a front runner player myself, I'm not going to worry about guts as much as I'm going to worry about wit, because I don't think we're going to see a lot of front runners just because of how difficult it is to get their gold recovery skills and groundwork and green skills and taking the lead, etc. Now that we've talked about a couple of different Umas you can run and your options and how the track works, we need to talk about gold recovery skills. So let's say you don't have the cards to hit max speed and max stamina. you're going to be looking to hit 1050 stamina plus 2 gold recovery skills. What are gold recovery skills? Gold recovery skills have this blue sort of symbol here with the gold outline. They are the upgraded versions of the white recovery skills. All the gold recovery skills are listed here, and I've put them in a tier list for you. But before you come for me, let me make these make sense of where I've placed them, yes? So on this track, we know that there is an uphill and a straight right when you come out of the gate. So we have 3 skills that people take often for long races, but their conditions are a little different in Libra Cup. Let's start with Restless. Restless is a gold recovery skill that activates on an uphill. Restless looks like it might be good on Libra, right? Because we've got an uphill right before the late race. If Restless procced here, it would be perfect.
Yippee!
However,
Wait, what?
it has a 50% chance to proc on the uphill that you hit when you come right out of the gate, making it completely useless. If your stamina is full, think of it like an HP bar. If your HP bar is full, recovering HP immediately when you begin is not going to help you. So Restless has a 50% chance to do you wrong. The way the game does this is it essentially flips a coin. Will it proc on this uphill or will it proc on this uphill? And it decides. And then when you reach that uphill, you'll have to pass a wit check. So if your wit stat is, let's say, 400, you have about an 80% chance to pass that wit check. If you pass the check, you get the recovery.
Yay!
If you fail the check, you do not get a new chance over here.
Wait,
The
what?
coin was already flipped. The decision was already made. The skill had the opportunity to activate. You just didn't pass the wit check for it to activate, if that makes sense. So Restless in particular is a 50-50 roll. I personally will not be taking it. A lot of people might be trying to run front runners with Restless, and they will be flipping this 50-50 coin, either intentionally or unintentionally. So this is just to inform you that those are your chances. Do with this information what you will. The similar thing happens with Breath of Fresh Air and Cooldown, right? So both of these activate on a straight. We have 4 straights in this race, right? 2 of which are useless
Yikes!
for you to recover on. The first straight and the last straight. Recovering stamina in the last straight will not help you because if you ran out of stamina before this, you have been passed. The other Umas have left you behind. They've accelerated to their top speed and they will pass the finish line before you even get to the final straight and use your recovery skill. So you only have 2 viable straights in this race for Breath of Fresh Air and Cooldown to activate. That is again a 50-50 chance for these skills to be useful. If they are the only skills you have, let's say you get a run where you get everything you ever wanted. Long S, Turf S, Frontrunner S, max speed, max power, 600 wit, 1,000 stamina. And your only option other than swinging Maestro is to also get Restless. I would buy it. I would say, you know what? On an Uma this strong, I will buy it for that 50-50 chance that every 1 in 2 races, that Uma is going to be the strongest Uma in the course. If these are not your only options, don't buy them. They are not good. There's a whole other tier up here of extremely reliable recovery skills that if you pass the wit check, they will activate for you. Now, keep in mind, you do have to pass the wit check for these 50-50 coin flips. So you're already setting yourself up for a 50-50 coin flip, and then you have to pass the wit check on a race where everyone is going to have notoriously low wit. You need to be looking at these S tier gold recoveries. There's lots of them. This does not include the gold recovery skills that do not work on long races. Libra Cup, as we know, is a long race. And so you can't use skills like Keen Eye that only work in mile races. So really make sure you're paying attention to the activation conditions of all of your gold recoveries. If it's not on this list, it will not proc on Libra Cup unless something new comes out after I make the list. Right? So that being said, we have a lot of really wonderful S tier gold recoveries, Swinging Maestro being the most reliable on this course for every runner. You can run this Swinging Maestro no matter what position you are in. You can get this in multiple different ways. Wedding Maiano Top Gun comes with this in her kit. The most common way is the Super Creek SSR. That's a stamina card that will give you Swinging Maestro when it reaches the end of its little storyline. You can also get it from the new Rice Shower Power card. It also gives you Swinging Maestro at the end of its little canon event. So Swinging Maestro is going to be pretty much mandatory on every UMA you're going to run in the Libra Cup. Don't leave home without your Swinging Maestro. Go Home Specialist is going to be the next most consistent and powerful gold recovery on Libra Racecourse. Go Home Specialist is found inherently on gold ship. And that's why we're going to be seeing so many gold ships in Libra Cup. Go Home Specialist activates on a downhill. You have one downhill here just before the mid-race and another downhill here just near the start of the late race. Either one of these spots is a great spot to get a recovery. The start of the late race is great. It's going to help you finish out the race. The start of the mid-race is great because you've already run 330 meters. So no matter what, you will always get value out of Go Home Specialist, no matter where it activates. Another really extremely reliable gold recovery skill is going to be Gourmand. Now, only pace chasers can run Gourmand, and this is again why you'll see a lot of pace chasers. You can get Gourmand from the Special Week card that came out in the first week of the game. It's a free card. If you weren't playing at the time, lots of people have it MLB. You can borrow it very easily. It also is inherently on Special Week herself and a couple of other UMAs. So look out for Gourmand wherever you can find it. Gourmand recovers endurance mid-race. Literally perfect. This is where you want your gold recoveries to pop. You've run the early race, you recover your stamina. You approach the late race, you recover your stamina before you hit it, so you're ready to accelerate. The next one, Race Planner, is the same as Gourmand. It's a pace chaser skill that decreases fatigue mid-race. It functions the exact same way. It's phrased differently, decrease fatigue versus recover endurance, but it means the exact same thing. They just had to give them different descriptions so you could tell them apart. The next one is going to be Lie in Wait. And this is the new gold recovery for late surgers that you can get from the new Zeno Rob Roy speed card. Lots of people have this MLB. You can borrow it. You don't need to pull for this. You can just borrow it from someone. You only need it for your late surgers who are running long and medium races. But this recovers endurance when positioned towards the back upon approaching the mid-race. Where is approaching the mid-race? Right here. The very end of the early race. So as you're approaching the mid-race, if you're in late surging position towards the back, you will recover endurance. Very reliable, very good, excellent skill. You can absolutely take it. It'll work for you if you pass your wit checks. Calm and Collected is a similar skill where it decreases fatigue upon approaching the mid-race. It's just for pace chasers instead. Gourmand and Race Planner are going to be better because they will activate in the mid-race. And the more you run and the more you have left to run, the better your gold recoveries are. So those two are certainly better, but Calm and Collected is just as good. If you need Calm and Collected because it's on a card you're running or an UMA has it inherently, this is an excellent gold recovery. No need to go jumping through hoops to try and replace it with one of the other ones. Burning Spirit Stamina is what you can get in the Unity Cup scenario, if you burst a lot of spirit bursts on stamina and level up your stamina facility first. You also have to reach a certain level in the Unity Cup. Essentially, as long as you're winning your Unity Cup races, you'll get this. If you are bursting your most spirit bursts on stamina and leveling up the stamina facility first. If you don't burst enough, you will get the white version. So the only thing wrong with this is that it's a little unreliable to actually get it. But let's say you get to the end of your run and you're offered burning spirit stamina on your Uma. This is a fantastic gold recovery that you can take. It recovers endurance in proportion to the total stamina of racing team members mid-race. This is great. All your Umas are going to have high stamina, so the proportion you get is awesome, and it activates mid-race. Again, similar to Ormond and Race Planner. That's why it's so good. The last one we have to look at in the S tier is Sleeping Lion. Now, Sleeping Lion comes inherently on Narita Taishin. Narita Taishin is going to be very strong in this track. However, Sleeping Lion can be messed with by certain debuffers. They did patch it a little bit, but not perfectly. So you may see a Haruarara running as an end closer with no stats whatsoever, trying to increase the distance between the end and the front runners. And that's to mess with Narita Taishin's Sleeping Lion. Because the conditions for this to proc are if you're in the back of the pack at a random point in the mid-race, your stamina will recover. So yeah, if you see these Haruararas in your races, it's specifically to mess with Narita Taishin players who are running Sleeping Lion. That being said, if you are running Narita Taishin, you probably already experienced this in Gemini, so you know what to look out for. The other thing is Narita Taishin is a very difficult Uma to raise in her career. If you're looking at building an end closer, everyone has Gold Ship. Go Home Specialist is more reliable and can't be messed with by debuffers like Haruarara. So I would highly recommend you go with Gold Ship over Narita Taishin. If this is your first long champions meet and you're trying to have a really successful Uma, Gold Ship will actually be very reliable for you. She also has 20% stamina gain, so that helps. Lastly, let's talk about our F tier. The F tier is pretty well known for being difficult to activate. These gold recoveries have very specific conditions in which they pop off, and most of the time, those things aren't going to happen. I would not recommend buying these, even if they're your only option, because you should have planned with your deck that you brought to have other options, right? So don't rely on these as a backup. They are so unreliable that it is unlikely you will win often if you're trying to win based on these gold recovery skills. Why? Of course, they're activation conditions. So let's go back. Let's look at Iron Will. Iron Will is notorious. Recover endurance when the way ahead is jammed early race or mid race. Yikes! So not only can it activate in the early race if the way ahead is jammed, which it often is because everyone's coming out of the gate and trying to reposition onto the rail and get into position. So if the way ahead is jammed and it's right at the beginning, it's going to pop. And that's not great because you don't want to be recovering early. But also, what if it's never jammed? What if the very complexly programmed conditions for the way ahead being jammed never even actually activate? Now, it does have an accumulate time of more than 5 seconds, so it won't pop immediately when you launch out of the gate, but 5 seconds is still not long enough out of a very long race to justify recovering at the 6th or 7th second, right? This is just not a good skill, especially when you consider how often you will not be jammed. Indomitable is similar. Recover endurance when passed by another runner mid-race. It's better because it activates in the mid-race.
Yippee!
It's bad because you have to be passed by another runner. Now, you will often see Umas in these races trading positions, right? They try to reassemble within their pack. So the pace chasers will go back and forth with one leading the way and then another leading the way. You'll see them popping skills and rearranging themselves. Indomitable isn't good because it isn't reliable. You can't guarantee that another Uma will pass you in the mid-race ever. And all of everything you're working towards is to be in the best position within your strategy. So if you're a pace chaser, you want to be at the front of the pace chaser pack. If you're a late surger, you want to be at the front of the late surger pack, and on, right? So if another Uma is passing you, that's already not good. So you don't want to be building Umas that get passed. Indomitable, you could try to run if you're feeling silly. If you're a beginner, absolutely not. But if you're an advanced player and you're like, you know what? Why not? You could run Indomitable, but it's not reliable and it's not going to get you to the same place that all of these other gold recovery skills are. Unruffled, recover endurance when surrounded mid-race, very similar to Indomitable, less likely to activate. You are more likely to be passed in the mid-race at some point than you are to be surrounded, especially on a long race. Everyone's all making their own space, running in their own spot. They have so much time to spread out. So, not a very good skill. Serenity. Let's talk about Serenity. This is an end closer gold recovery that says regain composure by calming down when the way ahead is jammed. It's the same as Iron Will. No good. Relax. Recover endurance late race as a late surger. Relax and Adrenaline Rush, we're going to kind of talk about together. So Relax is a late surger skill, and Adrenaline Rush is a long skill, so anybody can run this. They regain your energy in the late race. Now, Adrenaline Rush says regain the energy when close to exhausting strength. That means that you have to have less than or equal to 30% of your health left. These are bad because essentially they activate in the late race. And the point of stamina recovery is to recover enough stamina before you hit the late race so that when you hit the late race, the calculations that are done to how fast your Uma can reach their top speed include the maximum amount of stamina you can possibly have. Because running at their top speed uses up more of an Uma's stamina. So they need more stamina in the late race than they do in the rest of the race. They need enough stamina to start pushing towards their top speed right away. And if you're recovering later, you aren't hitting those calculations the same way other Umas are. This is why when Umas hit the late race, you'll see Umas surging forward and some Umas either just staying at the same pace or starting to fall back because they didn't have enough stamina when they hit this line right here to start accelerating, using their power and using their skills. So you need to be recovering ideally in the mid or later part of the early race. That's why Relax is bad because it's a late surger skill that will recover you in the late race. Adrenaline Rush is weird. Because it requires you to have 30% stamina or less left, you essentially are already out of stamina. And if you're already out of stamina, it's not going to recover enough to get you to the end because the late race is at 1,000 meters. So this marker right here, it's a 3,000 meter race. The late race is at 1,000 meters. What does that mean? There's 33% of the race left. So if you are at 30% or less, and then you recover some, you still have 33% of the race left, and you're using more stamina in the late race. So you need 40 to 50% of your stamina in the late race. So Adrenaline Rush, as written, when close to exhausting strength, it works the way it sounds. If you are losing, you will get some more stamina back. You don't want to be losing. It will not save you from losing. It activates too late, and it activates when you have too little stamina. If it was 40 to 50% of your stamina left, then it would be much more viable. But because it's 30% and the late race has 33% of the race left in it, that's where it starts to get very scary. Now, there is some testing to be done with front runners because front runners do hit the late race before everyone else, and they have already been at their top speed for a bit, usually. It is possible that Adrenaline Rush will work on front runners. I'm still testing it. I haven't got one to work quite yet. Let me know in the comments if you're using Adrenaline Rush, if it's working for you, especially if it's working for you on your front runners. And that's it for our Libra Cup video. We've broken down the course. We've broken down some skills. We've gone through some of the Umas that are available to you with gold recoveries on their kit and as their ultimate. And the last thing we need to do is talk about each Uma and who is going to be the best for this race. And that's going to be a separate video. So come back in a couple of days for our Libra Cup Umamasume Uma tier list. I'll see you then.